All right, welcome into another edition of Catching Up with Tommy Mack here on 1010XL's podcast platform at 1010XL.com, the 1010XL app. Make sure you download that. And, of course, on Facebook, on 1010XL's page, on my page, collectively, all together. You'll see us on YouTube. You see us on, or hear us on Spotify, iTunes, wherever you watch, listen to the show or to your favorite podcast. We are on all those channels, so check us out. Thank you for the support. Greatly appreciate it. All right, let me get some business out of the way because this is we're talking Jags today, but I got to get some business. Hey, my brother Mike's on the show. What's up, Mike? 3-3 up in Indy. All right, so why am I wearing the Michigan Wolverine jersey? I'll tell you why. Because a few weeks ago, I was on this show, and Graham remembers, I said that Michigan was overrated and that Bama was going to roll them, basically, just kick the crap out of them. So anyway, after the show, my good friend from high school, Beef Hollis, who lives in Michigan, he calls me up. He's like, bro, you're crazy. Michigan's going to win. I'm like, seriously? Alabama's going to kick the living shit out. I mean, it's just going to be they won't be able to hang up front at all. Trust me. He's like, I'm telling you right now. He goes, if they win, if Michigan wins, I'm sending you a jersey and you got to wear it on your podcast. Well, the jersey came Saturday. So I'm a man of my word. Of course, I take my medicine. Hats off to the Michigan Wolverines. Hey, great year. Undefeated all the way through. It is what it is. Next year, we got a bigger playoff. But for this year, Jim Harbaugh, I didn't like what you said about America's rooting for us. I didn't believe that, especially past south of the Mason-Dixon line. I don't think people really cared. But hats off to you. Great year, national champs. Never take that away. I love the Harbaugh relationship. I love that John's there. I love that Jack, of course, still there and in the stands and all that. Their dad. It's just a great, great thing. All right, catch up with Tommy Mack, brought to you by Team Tommy Mack, some of the best local and regional businesses for all kinds of services. I'll tell you about them throughout the show, but make sure you check me out on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. I promote them all throughout my feed when it does call upon. All right, so Michigan's out of the way. I'm still going to wear the jersey just because, but let's say good morning to my friend Grammage. Grammage, how are you, pal? Has the hangover worn off? I'm still a little, it's like I'm not happy about the way this Jaguar team just crumbled. And, with everything in front, after all the crap they've been through, everything in front of them against not only a 5-11 team going in, a depleted team, 20 guys on IR. I mean, injuries all over the place, yet the Tennessee Titans beat us 28-20. How you doing, man?
I've been better.
Yeah, so annoying. It's just so annoying. But good.
I've enjoyed coming into work more than I have this week because of our Jags. But I mean, man,
brutal.
I think what's happened in the last. There was one game they lost. I want to say it was the Cincinnati game.
Okay.
After the game, Evan Ingram said something in the locker room about kind of these problems we've been having caught up to us.
Yep.
I think that they caught up to them at that game, and they really never got back ahead of them. But
Grammage, go back to week 2. Bad week of practice with Chiefs coming in. Flat against Houston at home. You know what I mean? Like, KC beat you pretty decently, but it wasn't like they totally killed you. You know what I mean? Bad week of practice. Have to go to London to get away from it all. Weird stuff all year long, in my opinion. Just strange psyche kind of things, press clippings, guys not knowing, subtle hints from whether it's the coordinators talking to the media or Doug talking to the media. Yeah, we just got to get on the same page, blah, blah. You can see guys being out of position, guys not knowing what they're doing at times, both sides of the ball. It's just been a weird kind of year for me.
It has. And I think particularly offensively, there were these expectations and there was this idea of how this offense was going to be and how it was going to flow and what type of team they were going to be.
Yep.
And dating back to literally week 1, remember week 1 they scored a lot of points, but it was choppy.
31. Yeah.
But it was choppy.
Yeah, it was sloppy. We were like, hey, thumbs up though, right?
And we're like, hey man, if you can score 31
playing that,
then imagine what they'll be when they get on the same page. And then it kind of just stayed that sloppy, choppy, can't really put together drive after
consistently
drive.
Inconsistent.
Right.
That's what they were all year long. And now there's a big move. Dave Caldwell, defensive coordinator, and almost his entire staff on defense fired yesterday, let go by Doug Peterson and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Listen, I didn't expect anyone to be fired. I really didn't. I wasn't sitting there going, even Balky, I wasn't necessarily thinking that, but I know there's a lot of, out there. Is it scheme? Is it, talent? Obviously somewhere in the middle, I would imagine, but I'm looking at a lot of talent. We're going to go through it. By the way, I've got since they kicked the Titans' butt after San Fran lost, right? I've got every game here, just stats and how it looks and whatnot. Look, no, the defense was not great, obviously. We had backup quarterbacks beat us, had no pressure on them, none at all. Even when they called a blitz, you weren't getting home. You weren't getting there with 4. You want to blame I know, we live in a world today that everyone wants to blame somebody, right? And it's typically whichever way the wind blows, especially on social media, someone someone thinks is really important says, oh, it's this, they go all in on that. You know what I mean? Look, it's not always just one thing. And I'll tell you this, first of all, I shouldn't have to say this, but I'm going to say it. I have no hidden agenda, and I'm not a shill for the team, and I never will be. I've always remained independent for that reason. I don't care about press conferences. I don't care about sound clips. I know we have to do that for radio, and that's great. It's fantastic. But I never went to a press conference. I don't care what the coach says. I can read and react off what he says. I can watch a game and know exactly what's going on with this team and what's wrong with it. And I think consistently inconsistent is a great thing. And to fire Caldwell, it feels knee-jerk to me, and it feels like it came from the top. It doesn't feel like it came from Doug. It feels like it came, and it's Balky, then Shad Khan, and Tony is somewhere in the middle. Lamping's on the business side. He clearly makes that very, very clear. He's like, I'm not the football guy, right? So who is the buffer? You normally have a president or a VP of football ops, someone that is in between the owner and the GM. We don't have that. We don't have, good or bad. I'm just saying that Balky, all he has to answer to is the head man, Shad Khan. There's no one in between. I think Shad Khan or Tony or somebody said, you know what? You got to do something. You got to do something. That's the collapse. It's embarrassing. They were doing it off emotion. I think Doug, obviously, he's got to do it. He's not going to fire his offensive guys. They're going to protect the offensive guys as much as possible. He can't say fire Balky because then he'll lose his job. You know what I mean? It's just the way things work. Okay, so I think this came from up top, which is whatever. It is what it is. But to sit there and think that it's all the scheme. So theme of today, is it talent? Is it scheme? Is it scheme, right? When my D-line on the interior, by the way, who did nothing all year, Roy Robertson Harris had an okay year. There were times he was really good. There were times he wasn't good at all. Devon Hamilton, who I always thought was going to be a star, it's just never come to fruition. Okay, injury back, I get it. But when he was out there, he was not very effective, hardly at all. Foley, Fadakasi from the Jets, supposed to be this unbelievable defensive lineman. Total game record. Nothing, hardly all year. Did you? Maybe made a play or two. You know what I'm saying? Like, then Gotsis, who comes off the bench but plays a lot. Gave him new money. What did he do? Maybe a couple plays here. You know what I'm saying? Like, so what is that? Are you telling me that it's the defensive coordinator for not getting those guys in better positions to get off blocks, to beat the guy in front of them? Look, I'm not saying Caldwell should be immune to anything. But again, I didn't think anybody was going to be fired. I wasn't looking for anybody to be fired. I want upgrade in talent. I want better talent. I want fires lit. I do want more accountability. I don't know if I see a lot of accountability. You know, I don't. And it goes all across the board. But we're gonna get into it, man, because I went back on my notes, and then I did year-end stats, right? So think about this, just from the defensive side, if I may. Okay, tied for fifth in takeaways. 27. Pretty damn good. Top 7 for getting off the field on third down. Really good. Really good. I mean, to me, that is one of the big things when you're talking about a defense, getting off the field on third down. Okay? Harassing the QB, those types of things. But takeaways, 27. Pretty big. Guess how many giveaways? 30. Huh, no way. More than the defense? Yep. 30 giveaways, ints, and fumbles. Defensively, let's talk about the guys that had great years. Josh Allen, of course, 17 and a half sacks, tied for second. Trayvon Walker, 10 sacks, tied for 10th. Tackles, Foye Oluokun, 173, 4th overall in the league. Lloyd, who has his issues, I'm not saying he doesn't, 127, 21st in the league. Jenkins, who's a total dog in my opinion, 101 tackles, 57th, but I wanted to mention him because to me, he's a ball player. Interceptions, Darius Williams, 4, Cisco, 4, both tied for 7th in the league, not too shabby. Passes defense, Darius Williams, 19, 2nd in the league overall. Jenkins with 9, Trey Herndon with 9 as well. Okay, so you're telling me some of the best years out of your top players, and you're telling me it's the coordinator? You know what I'm saying? Like, and again, I wouldn't expect anyone to be fired. I'm not saying it's like he's totally immune to being fired, but at the same time, and I know you can look at stats, but let's look at stats. Because I know everyone's like, well, look at the games against Cleveland. Right, let's look at those. Did we pressure the QB? Did our front four get to the QB? When we called the blitz, did we get to the QB? You know what I'm saying? Jake Browning sat back there like C.J. Stroud did in week 2. All day long. All day. Even when we blitz, guys getting picked up. So if I call a blitz, and it should work because I'm expecting one of my guys to win against their 5, right? 5 on 5, I expect them to win. But when they don't win, is it a bad call? Is it this? You know what I'm saying? Like, it just seems really strange, in my opinion. A knee-jerk reaction. Yes, I didn't like everything. Maybe you look at different position coaches. Maybe so. Okay, I don't want anybody getting fired out there, and I hope Mike Caldwell will get picked up. I hope every assistant gets picked up. I do. I don't want anybody getting fired. Okay? Foye Oluokun had a great year. Lloyd had an okay year. Lloyd was a little lost in coverage. I think we can all agree to that. I put it more on the player, but if you want to put it on the coach and you look at that coach maybe and say, hey, man, we got to figure something out here. But if you're going to do that, then you better take care of the wide receiver coach because he's got guys that are out of position. He's got one of our top guys who doesn't know what he's doing half the time. Whose fault is that? Is that his fault? You getting rid of him too? You're not getting rid of Press Taylor. They're buddies. So that's where that political camaraderie, it's whatever, the relationships. It happens in business. It happens in football. It is what it is. But to sit here and say that this collapse was the defense's fault. Let's go to Baltimore. Yeah, we lost 23-7, but that was a really close game. And how many times did we give the ball up? How many? You guys remember? I got it here on my, the receipts, because all you people need receipts. The Bucs game was awful. I mean, just flat on awful. Here we go, the Ravens. Let's see, 5 of 12 on third down, 1 on 1 on fourth. 3 sacks, 4 QB hits, and a pick. We were terrible that day. Absolutely terrible. 3 of 13 on third down. And Trevor gave up the ball, 2 fumbles. Shoo. And then forget about the debacle at the half. I mean, it could have been different. Could have been 10-10 at halftime. Who knows what happens after that? You don't know about momentum. Momentum changes. Anyway, again, I'm not sitting here saying that the defense. I think the talent on the defense needs to be upgraded. I called out the interior defensive line. Our 4 backers had good years overall. Take them as a whole, they probably had great years. With Lloyd maybe being the weak link, and that's just because he's out of position. I know people are showing this, it's funny. You can show anything with a video and make your argument work based on the angle. You can show anything with a photo, to make your argument work. I know there's where Derrick Henry, gets the ball, he dips in and then dips out, and Lloyd's can't get to the ball. Well, it was a great play by Derrick Henry. Did you see where the defensive tackle was? You see where Foley was on that play? He's in the lap of Lloyd. So Lloyd's, you think you can see around a guard and a D tackle? Have you ever tried it? You can't see around them sometimes, and you got to make a guess. And when you dip in one side and that back's good enough because he's got two ways to go because of what? Because that vertical seam is there because the defensive tackle's getting his ass kicked. Now, I'm not trying to... Look, Lloyd was out of position too much for my liking. It's got to be better. Who holds these guys accountable anyway? Who? The head coach should. It's up to the head coach to hold all these guys accountable. To not believe in their press clippings. To not believe that, and by the way, can we stop with it was us, not them? False. Are you telling me that the Titans didn't kick your ass last Sunday? You telling me they didn't out-physical you up front? Are you telling me that? I know they did on offense. I mean, look what 8.1 and 8.3 yards a carry with Henry and Spears. 8. They got run on like crazy. Now, granted, big run, obviously, that brings up but missed tackles. Is that scheme or is that attitude? What is the attitude? I don't know. I just go by what I look. But what is the attitude? Does everyone really give, a shit about everything? Or is it about the money? Money's great. I get it. All I would say is this to every single player, not only on our team, but all across the board. For most of you, this is going to ring true. A couple of you maybe be Hall of Famers, maybe. It won't ring true. But even when it's in that Hall of Fame kind of realm, it does ring true. Let me just tell you this, to all those players on that team. When you're done and retired, and another former player enters the room with a Super Bowl ring on, he trumps every single one of us. Every one of us. Because he's a Super Bowl champion. He has to wear that ring. Some got multiple rings. Some may even be backups. But guess what? They're sitting there as a part of a team that won the Super Bowl. Only so many can say that. That should be your only motivation for to play for the Jacksonville Jaguars. That motivation. That, by the way, is dedication year-round. Year-round, every day I wake up, how am I getting faster? How am I getting quicker? How am I making my body better? I'm making my mind better, making my soul better. Knowing everything in the playbook once the season comes around. All that stuff. It's called your job, first and foremost, and it's a fantastic job. But don't tell me it's coaches when you don't know what you're doing out there. Part of it may be, but not at this level. Professional. What do you do for a living? I'm a professional athlete. I'm a professional football player. That's what I do. That's who I am. That's my livelihood. So I don't know if they have that in them. Other teams I know do, because you see the results. Other teams screw up, no doubt. Other teams have bad days. We know this. But the ones that are in the playoffs right now, they have earned their way in. We didn't earn anything. And you want to blame the defense? Hey, man, you can blame whoever you want. I don't really care. At the end of the day, I just want this team to win. It's better when they win. Look at around here. Walk down the hall coming in, saying hi to people. Hey. It's not like, hey, how's it, man? What a game. Wasn't that great? Bah, bah, bah. No, it's despondent. It's depressing. It sucks. It flat out sucks. All right, let's go through the stats for this past week, Jim. Go ahead.
Really quickly, I have some potential breaking news.
Oh.
Not confirmed yet, but some tweets starting to roll in from relatively reliable sources that Bernie Parmalee is perhaps going to be let go, and also probably assistant O-line coach Todd Washington.
Okay.
Nothing confirmed yet, but
it
is seeming more and more likely that those two will be the next ones on the chopping block.
So when you look at Etienne, who I love Travis Etienne Jr., and his 3.8 yards per carry, it's all on the O-line. Is it all on the coaches? Or is it all on the O-line? By the way, I saw where Doug said Fortner's good. Like, he's okay. I mean, come on. Like, seriously. Your O-line was not good. Your O-line was not good. Sheriff didn't have a great year. Now, he may be banged up. I don't know. They all may be banged up for all I know.
Hearing Doug
but they did not have a good year at all.
Hearing Doug talk about Fortner had me punching air. Which
makes you wonder, doesn't it make it just seems weird. Like, you're really look, I don't want them to, Trevor's our guy. There's no doubt about it. Trevor has all the physical tools, and he's tough as shit to be a franchise quarterback. But he's got to hone his game in. He does. I don't want to hear excuses. He misses too many for that elite level type QB. Does he have the tools? Yes. Does he make plays that are elite? Absolutely he does. But he is consistently inconsistent with that football, even on some of his completions. It's not in the right spot. They got to, lean back, go back for it. They got to lose momentum. They're not hitting and run. Sometimes he does, but not consistent enough. He's got to hone this in. Does it start up front? Of course it does. Does it start with guys knowing exactly where they're supposed to be on every single page? Of course it does. Does it start with being on the same page, hand signals, eye signals, whatever, facial expressions? Of course it does. But he did not have a good year. He regressed this year. I'm sorry, he did. And the audibles. If he said he audible, I got to believe him. I don't know. That last play, and granted, we're still down there with a chance to score. You pull Scherf, but do a QB sneak.
I don't think he audibled. I think he just ran up to the line and did his own thing.
You don't even think he audibled?
No, I think
he just did his own thing.
I think that 10
He's
players...
gone rogue before. We've talked about it on this show. He goes rogue. You can't do that if you're not going to make it.
Because an audible is changing the play at the line and telling the other 10 guys we're going to this play.
Right.
I think 10 players on that on that field thought we were running this play.
That play.
And Trevor snapped the ball.
By the way, it looked like it was going to work if they went through it.
It looked like Scherf was going to pull to the right, and they were going to run some type of toss or off tackle.
Or off tackle was strange leading up the gut.
That's what it looked like they were going to do.
No doubt. Okay, so corrected. Yeah, it wasn't an audible, but it's rogue. He goes rogue too much. I don't know. Listen, at the end of the day, he's got all the tools. But let's talk about stats since we're talking about it, because I looked this up. I was just curious. For this season, now, I'm not a huge QBR and rating. I don't even totally know exactly, but that's how they rank quarterbacks. They rank QBR higher than rating, all right? QBR, he's 16th in the league. 56.6, Trevor, 16th in the league. Rating, 88.5, 23rd in the league. Now, you could say injuries, maybe. Okay, fair enough. I'm not saying not. You could say drops. Yep, definitely. Too many. Way too many. But you can also say that he didn't have the best year that he needs to have. He did. If he wants to be this upper tier, and I know he does, we all want him to be. Hell yeah, we do, including the organization. Can't go through this again. We cannot. He's our guy. Look, I'm not extending him. That's a whole nother conversation. I want to see more before I do anything. But he's got to hone this in. And he's got to get help. Why does he have 3 quarterback coaches, yet he still struggles with things? I think he needs a third party. Go get Denny Thompson or something. I'm serious. Go get somebody that's not related with the organization and just work on your craft, because you need to. And you're not the only one. You're not the only one at all. ETN, 3.8 yards per carry, 59.3 yards per game. Touchdowns were good, 11. It's not all his fault. I'm not saying it is. I like ETN a lot, and he had the receptions, which were fantastic. But not good enough. How about yards per game for wide receivers? You know who led us all year?
Calvin.
Per game. Yards per game.
Yards per game.
For the whole year.
Receiver.
Yep.
Not tight end.
Not Ingram.
I would probably Calvin.
Kirk.
Wow.
65.6. Now, not having him definitely hurt. But guess what? Everyone has injuries. And you want to give me the injury crap? Look, Tennessee had more than anybody you've even heard of recently, and they still beat you. So don't even give me that. I don't buy into
the Browns
injury
were on
excuse.
Their like second and third string linemen across the board and beat your ass.
Right. And this Bengals took care of you with a backup QB who's actually all right, but still didn't have Joe Burrow. So don't give me that. Those are excuses in my book anyway. Ridley was second at 59.8, Ingram 56.6. Just awful. The defense wasn't consistent. Offense wasn't consistent. Like I said, brought to you by Team Tommy Mac. Check them all out, please. Chris Lucero's Bail Bonds, Truck Accident Law Firm, Graffiti Burger Bar, Carpet Man Flooring, Azar Sausage, Outback Marine Construction, J-Dog Junk Removal, and Solomon Ventures, of course, at 1010 XL Studios. All right, let's look at this real quick. Okay, I won't spend a lot of time, although we got time. Titans, Jags beat Titans 34-14. This was after the whooping from San Fran. My notes, very physical. 8 in the box, physical. Aluakin MVP. Love Mike Caldwell's blitz calls. Aluakin nickel safety. Herndon, Cisco, Jenkins. Interesting. What did they do? Held Titans to 14 points, 3.8 yards per carry, 9.3 per attempt. Not very good. Did they throw a bomb on us? Can't remember if that flea flicker, was that flea flicker bomb?
Yeah, they had the flea flicker touchdown to DeAndre Hopkins.
3rd down, 2 of 7. Pretty damn good. We were +2 in the turnover ratio. Not bad. Then we take the Texans. Take down the Texans, 24-21, second game. Let me see on my notes here if I get anything on defense. Josh Allen, 12 sack, having a year. I brought up RRH, Fatukasi. Penalties hurt you. Let's see. 21 points given up, 5.1 yards per carry. Stroud was at 7.8. So that helped raise that. 8.4 yards per attempt, 6 of 13. Not a good job by the defense. They did have 4 sacks and 7 QB hits. So not terrible, but not good enough, obviously. Our offense, man, we averaged 2.7. Trevor had a great game that game, and they were great on 3rd down. Losing OT to the Bengals. Number 1 seed, playoff ready, both with question marks. I got hangover part 4 on there. Jake Browning, 32 of 37, 354, 9.6 yards per attempt, 1 touchdown, 0 picks. Joe Mixon, 19 of 68 with 2 touchdowns. Chase had the big TD. Great, adjustment at halftime. 34 points given up. Yards per carry, 5.0. Yards per attempt, 9.6. 8 for 14 on 3rd down. Browning had all day long. Call it scheme, call it talent, call it both. I don't know. Browns, we lose again. What's happened to the Eagles? Oh, God. I mean, they're just like us. Holy cow. Let's see if they bounce back. I don't know. I've been picking them to win every freaking week, even when, and they keep losing. It's driving me nuts.
They've fallen off arguably worse than we have. They just did more work on the front end before they fell off, so they're in the playoffs.
Yeah.
But Tampa is probably going to beat them, I think.
Yeah.
They've been playing so poorly, man. They can't do anything. They're like us. They can't not do anything.
I'd be shocked if Tampa beats them. Only 9 against Carolina. They've got a little Jekyll and Hyde, that team. You know what I memean?
Yeah.
I think Baker's got some ribs, but whatever. You play hurt, man, like I just said. All right, let me see. I don't got anything. Let's see. I did write Aluakin. Oh, Antonio Johnson had a great blitz. This is against the Browns. Browns, 2.9 yards per carry, pretty good. 4 for 18 on 3rd down, pretty good. Ford was 4.3, so he did have some success, but not much. Hunt had that touchdown that he kind of ran through. We had sat. We couldn't get to him enough. We couldn't. Flacco had time. I tell you all the time, they got time. They're going to make throws. The Ravens. Look, I went through the Ravens. Not very good, but you know what? Hung in there for a good bit of that game while your offense gave the game away. But you want to fire the defense. Whatever. You've got to fire who you got to fire. You're forced to fire people. You're forced to fire people. What are you going to do? Let's see. Bucks was terrible. 30-0 at one time. Sense of urgency was not there. Doug Peterson, direct quote after the game. How? Fumbles, picks, being off, 4 turnovers. 2 fumbles by Lawrence. Two fumbles by Lawrence. No picks. I don't think. He had 2 picks in that game. Didn't he have 2 and 2 against the Bucks?
2 touchdowns, 2 picks.
Yeah, and then 2 fumbles.
He had 1 touchdown, 2 picks because he 2 picks, Beathard through the second touchdown.
We only had 12 points. Yeah. He scored 12. Yards per carry for the Bucks, 1.9. 3rd down, 10-9. It wasn't good. It wasn't good. And then Carolina. I mean, look, Look at the defense again. Now everyone's going to be like, after it happened, and they're like, look what we did against Carolina. Now they're going to look at it like, yeah, whatever. It doesn't mean anything. How about total domination? 1 of 13 on third down, our defense. Remember, we were raving about it. 1 of 13. 6 QB hits, 3 sacks. Anyway, let's look at the Titans real quick. Titans ran all over. 6.7 overall, 8.1 by Henry, 8.3 by Spears, 6 of 11 on third down. We did have 2 sacks, 7 QB hits, and 5 tackles for loss. I don't know. You could put that game on the offense and the defense. It's a team game. There's no doubt about it. Again, I'm surprised that anybody got fired. I was not expecting a coordinator especially to get fired. And if there was a coordinator, it would be the offensive coordinator. I don't want him fired either. I just want better players. I want better execution. I want better accountability. I want to, look, guys make mistakes. I understand it, but when they continuously make mistakes, you sit them. Now, I get you don't want to sit Lloyd because Muma's not as good as Lloyd. I get that. But you got to find somebody that at least can hold down the fort, if that's the case. You know, there's politics in this game. Well, I can't sit him. He's a first-round pick. Right. I get it. There are politics in this game. Just like someone came down to the head coach, and they'll deny it if they might not even respond to it. I don't really care, but they'll deny it. Like, no, I can't. No, I had to do it. I felt like. Because how can you look at your defense and do that and look at your offense and say what you're saying about your offense, especially your offensive line? It's a contradiction. And I like Doug. I'm not after anybody, man. Like I said, I got no agenda. But I'm not a shill either. I'm not just going to be like, no, you're right. You had to do something. Get better players. Get better attitude. How about an attitude adjustment? I had a guy on Twitter. Now look, I can't remember his handle, but he made a comment on one of my things, and he was at the game in Tennessee, sat behind the Jags bench, and said they looked like they didn't care at all. Third party, I wasn't there. I don't know. Maybe you were there. You could say yeah or no, whatever. But I hear that from one person. What do other people think? I don't know. I'm not there. I think they do care. How do you not care? How do you not care? The only way you don't care is if you're getting paid and you just don't care anymore. Hey, guys in my era put it in neutral too when they got big deals. They did. They didn't want to get hurt, and they didn't want to miss out on the years of the contract. It happens. Not all of them. Other guys would be like, hey, man, I'm going to prove this damn contract. I'm going to prove that I deserve this money. I'm going to prove that I deserve more money. That's what I think. I think this team needs an attitude adjustment.
Well, you saw in Doug's press conference yesterday, he obviously knows, but the tone of his press conference, you almost got the sense that it kind of felt like he didn't feel like the season was over. You know what I mean? He was kind of almost talking like they still had more ball left to play.
Yep.
And like they hadn't just run out of chances. And he obviously knows that, of course. But do you get what I'm saying? Like, the tone wasn't like, man, we really pissed this season away. We had our chances and we blew it type. Right. It was very much like, oh, we keep going on the same train type. It's like, no, you're done. You lost.
You collapsed.
Yes.
You collapsed. You were the number 1 seed for like 3 hours, but still. I mean, look, 8-2 at one time, right? Then 8-3, then 9-8. I mean, the head coach is number 1 who I'm looking at. He's got to be. And by the way, my brother Mike's like, was it too early to do it? I wouldn't have fired anybody. I don't think it was Mike Caldwell's fault that our defensive line was getting their ass kicked. I don't fault the coach 100%. I fault him a little bit when guys don't know who their man is in coverage. It's man to man. Who's your man? Cover him. If you got in out, you know what I mean? Like, come on. You don't know what zone you're in. You don't know your drop. You don't know the gap you're filling. Gap integrity.
So I think,
which means getting your ass whooped up front.
So
unbelievable.
My thing is, I think I disagree with you, but you played, so like
no. Don't say that. Don't say that.
But you know how the room.
I don't believe that.
Well, I don't mean it in terms of that. I'm just saying like, you know how like practice works. Like you know what the process is to make sure you do know what the hell you're doing. So like you have a better sense than I would on like. Okay,
if you didn't know what you were doing, you wouldn't be on the field.
And
if you had a bad attitude, you wouldn't be on the field.
And to me, that's where we were talking about accountability a little bit ago. To me, that's where I think Mike Caldwell perhaps lacked a little bit of accountability. We talked about it. Devin Lloyd struggled most of the year knowing where to be. And I get what you're saying.
There were pockets where he didn't, though. Remember how many interceptions he missed with the cast on his hand? He was in the right spot at the right time.
And it
failed down, it faltered throughout the year.
Yeah.
But
and you're not wrong about the politics. That's definitely true. Him being a first-round pick definitely has a lot to do with it. But they had no problem sitting his ass down last year when he didn't know what he was doing.
Yeah, so why didn't they do it this year?
That's what I mean. Right. And to me,
I think I know why. They don't trust Muma to replace him.
I would tend to agree. And
that's why they drafted what's his name, who never made the field. He got hurt, didn't he?
Ventrell Miller. Yeah.
Well, he'll be back next year. I want to see Cooper Hodges next year. Maybe he lights a fire in this offensive line.
I just think defensively, in the games where they played poorly, I just feel like Mike Caldwell bared more responsibility probably in terms of when certain players weren't getting it done, there wasn't enough change. That there was way too much. We're just going to keep doing the same things that weren't working.
Right.
In my opinion.
So that's his job. But whose job is it to make sure that doesn't happen?
The players.
No, the head coach too.
Yeah.
Like, hey, man, we're doing the same stuff. Why aren't we getting to the quarter? If I'm Doug, I'm ripping him like, hey, man, how was Jake Browning, C.J. Stroud, Joe Flacco sitting back there untouched? Brock Purdy sitting there pretty much untouched. How? I'd want to know that. Sure.
I agree with that.
I'm not saying, look, the truth is always somewhere in the middle. It does take two to tango. I'm not saying Mike Caldwell's immune to being fired. I'm just shocked he's been fired. I don't look at, you look at the collapse. If you had to place blame between the offense and defense, and at what percentage, what are you doing?
Yeah, I'd say that's a good question. I'd say probably
50-50?
No, I'd go probably 60-40 offense.
Offense's fault.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you just said it with the turnovers.
30. We're -3 because our offense gave up the ball 30 times this year. And by the way, our quarterback, 20 of the 30.
Got to be a substantial chunk of those because
most
of the fumbles were him too.
Have?
Yeah,
6 maybe.
Probably something like that. That sounds about right.
8 would be high, but 14 picks or 30, whatever. I'm sorry. That you want to talk stats?
Totally agree.
You want to talk like somebody needs to be better? Like, I don't want to hear, they're going to, and again, I want Trevor to get better. I think he's got all the tools. I believe he's got every tool you need, especially the number one tool, aside from the arm, is toughness. He's one of the tougher quarterbacks. He got his ass whooped this year, no doubt. Maybe he should start yelling at his offensive lineman. I'd be doing something because they got him killed this year. They did. They should be ashamed. And by the way, I'm sorry, but that interior D-line, you should feel really bad that all your coaches got fired. That defense should feel bad that your coaching staff got fired because of your play. Now, not all of you. Some of you had great years. There's no doubt about it. And I think you had some standout years. I think Darius Williams had a great year. Josh and Trayvon. Trayvon's coming on. He's going to be a hell of a player. I'm telling you. He's getting it down. He's getting the pass rush down. Aluakin, phenomenal year. Jenkins, good year. Cisco, pretty good year. Campbell, not that great of a year. Maybe the hamstring. Oh, I don't know. Not that great. It was okay. Interior D-line, RRH is the highest guy. And he was good. He was really good at times. I'm not going to say he wasn't, but then there were times where he wasn't good at all.
It's one of those cases to me where RRH is a good player, but if he's your best player on the interior D-line, it's not good enough, in my opinion. Unless he's playing out of his mind and becomes this great player, which he's a pretty good starter at that position.
And let's go back, Grammage. I think was it this year or last year where Doug wasn't really concerned about the nose tackle.
Yes.
Remember that?
Yes.
And we're like, what are you talking about? You got to have a nose to play 3-4.
You and I took issue with that. We took issue with that back then. And guess what? Yesterday on
was that
Sunday,
last off season or two?
That was it going into his first season.
Going into his first season.
And I distinctly remember that. And you and I both took issue with that. And
so you got to have a nose to play 3-4, man.
And guess what? 2 days ago, with your season on the line, you let Derrick Henry run for $150 and 2 touchdowns on you.
You made him look like he was 25. And he's still great.
And you let Tajay Spears go crazy on you, too.
All missed tackles. I wonder if they do the...
Looked like Walter Payton and Barry Sanders from the backfield.
No doubt. And pass game, when they caught the ball, too, especially Spears. But the angles, I wonder if they do the angle drill every day. We used to have to do that, like take an angle as the back comes down. Don't foul, you know what I mean? Because their angles are off. Their tackling's terrible. Now, let's talk about tackling, okay? Whose job is it to be a good tackler? Whose job? Whose job? I know what my answer is. It's my job. I've got to be a better tackler. The coach can tell me till he's blue in the face how to make a tackle. But guess what? He's not out there making the tackle. I've got to make it. Whose fault is it for not getting off blocks? Or taking a block on too high and too soft and getting knocked back? Whose fault is that? Anybody? Grammage? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not saying it's not all the players, but a lot of it is the players. That's their job. And when you, like, for instance, if you're the defensive front of last week, what's that plane ride home? Is it's okay, man? We tried. Is it, hey, man, you got your ass kicked all day. That can't happen if we're here next year. We got killed today. You know what I mean? Like, what is that internal accountability from that locker room? Plane ride, whatever. You can put whatever you want in there. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Are they calling each other out?
We don't see.
We got called out. So,
yeah.
If a player called you out too, you'd be like, shut the you-know-what up. I know. I already know before I got called out. And I feel terrible about it. I'm going to try to fix it. You get run over. You miss a read. You miss you get blocked out of a play. Yeah, you got to. That stings. So they all get out. You love the good plays. You want to watch them over and over and over again. They don't let you unless you do it on your own. But the bad plays, those are the ones that should sting. And I don't think it stings many players on that team.
I agree.
I think it's all ho-hum, whatever. I mean, I don't know. I come from that era of, no talking, just doing. Go home, are you embarrassed? If you just got thrown around by another man on the football field, when you go home to your family, are you embarrassed? Does it bother you that much? Bother the heck out of me. If I had to go look at my wife and I just got my butt kicked, and I'm not saying it didn't happen, of course, but I'd be embarrassed. Does it mean that much to everybody? You're going to have stragglers that are there for the check. It's the nature of human nature. But how the hell, whatever, you don't want that glory of winning. That glory of winning is more, don't get me wrong, you walk away from this game, you got more money you can have. God bless you, man. I'm happy for you. But the glory of winning, every Super Bowl, it stings that we lost in the AFC Championship game. One, I was a starter in that most of that year. The other, I was on IR. They both sting. Like I said, back to the, what I said earlier. When a guy with a former player with Super Bowl rings on walks into a room, he trumps pretty much most everybody in the room. Maybe not on an individual basis, right? But on a team basis. Yeah, we're Super Bowl champs. You can never take that away. Super Bowl champs. Here's the ring. Here's 3 rings. How about the guys that have multiple rings? You kidding me? That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. Let me ask you this. It's going to sting. How are the Texans better than us? How come their culture, it seems like there's some good culture there? Is it the scheme? Is it the players? Is it the attitude?
It's all of it. They got what what it felt like we had last year. Last year we had this locker room of guys playing for each other and felt like more accountability and felt like a group of guys that showed up every Sunday thrilled to go play football. And when I watch the Texans right now, that kind of little extra bounce in the step, that little extra.
Well, they got a QB.
100%.
Good.
100%.
That kid is really good.
100%.
At least his rookie year, we'll see.
Yeah.
You know what happens after the rookie year. See what happens.
And you can tell how excited their fan base is, as they should be. Watching them right now very much feels like watching the Jaguars last season. And it felt like this year, Jags hit some adversity early. Injury bug hit him. It's not an excuse, but it's just what happened. Injury bug hit him a little bit.
Believe their press clippings a little bit.
Right. All these things, all these controllables that should have been different. That's something Doug said yesterday that had me really, really pissed me off. I think you've mentioned this before. I know it drives Dempsey crazy. I hear him talk about it all the time. Doug said he has to coaches say this all the time. Yeah, in talking with the players, after the season meeting, this we had this issue. They're all correctable and fixable.
Well, whatever.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
I can't.
That's the whole. It wasn't us. It wasn't them. It was us. Crap. And let me tell you something. When that goes through your team, that's what they believe too. And they'll sit around and be like, yeah.
No big deal.
No big deal. Drop the pass. Missed the block. Strange makes a bad penalty in the game. I think his tight end coach said something to him, but he's just standing there looking at the thing like, oh, well, yeah.
I mean,
penalty, no big deal.
Dempsey, I
don't know, man.
I know for a fact Dempsey says this on his show all the time, and I could not agree with him more. It drives me insane when coaches say that, because if it's correctable and fixable, then correct it and fix it.
Right.
It's one thing to say it week 2. Okay.
Right. Okay.
Early
fair.
in the season,
I agree with that.
Things happen.
Yep.
Dude, you just pissed away the season.
Yep.
The season's over. You lost. What do you mean it's correctable and fixable? You had, for all intents and purposes, you had a playoff game that you had to play on Sunday, and you lost to a bad football team.
Yep.
Don't give me correctable and fixable, because if it was so correctable and fixable, then you would have corrected it and fixed it.
Right.
It drives me nuts when coaches say that.
I totally agree.
Gus used to say that. Gus Bradley used to.
Yeah.
Great guy. He said it all the time.
No, I know.
Oh my God.
Or you'd hear like, well, to the blind eye, you don't really know what you're looking at.
Oh,
like, shut up, man. I can see what football is. It's right there.
And it's so refreshing for you to say that as a player.
Yeah.
Because you were in the meeting rooms, you studied, you went out and played. It would be easy for someone like yourself to act that way. And be like, oh, well, you guys just don't know it. But you're like, no, it's football, man.
Yeah.
We see the mistakes being made, dude.
To figure out. Now, look, the one thing, if you've never played, you just don't know the emotional side. But you know all the other sides. You know if a guy plays good. You just don't know what it's like to feel like that. But that's okay. You don't have to. You know what it's like to feel like being a fan of those guys. So you can watch a game on TV at the stadium and tell me who's playing well or not. I'll give you a hint on defense. If you don't hear their name, they're not doing crap at all. At all. If you don't hear their name, they haven't done anything for the most part. Unless they're a nose tackle gobbling up the guard and center, which we don't do. We go for a ride.
I forget. Far too often, I forget Foley Fatukasi is on the team. It'll be the third quarter.
He's supposed to be this unbelievable player.
I know. It'll be the third quarter, and I'll be like, oh, yeah, 94 is on the roster. Oh, man. And I'll be like, is he active today? Yeah. Is he playing? I'm not sure.
So I don't know. Look, again, I was a grunt. I wasn't a high draft pick. I was on 1-year deals. So it wasn't like I had, like my last year, I got $100,000 signing bonus, which to me was like $1 million. But did I have security? Not really. But I always felt like if I didn't perform, they would cut me or they'd take me out of the position. You know what I mean? There wasn't practice squad. You go back and forth. Hey, he's got to develop. There was none of that. It was either do the job or get the hell out of here. Period. Now, I don't know if you can do that today. I think you can with some positions and some, monetary levels. There are things. Look, it is real. Okay. I want to replace this guy. Well, you can't replace him. I gave up 2 draft picks for the kid. You can't replace him. You can coach him up, but you're not taking him off the field. This other guy, he's a big-time free agent, man. Are you kidding me? You know how dumb we'd look if we're sitting his ass down? Make it work. You know what I mean? And then there's other guys. Tell him to sit out. It depends. There are politics in this profession, and we don't know them all, the inside and out. I don't even, in today's team, I can tell you about our team and what we went through. And say what you want, man. Say what you want. I made a joke to my wife yesterday because I was still like, just down, like bummed. I said, you know, I'm not saying this for any reason, but aside from the first year, which nobody expected playoffs, we went to the playoffs 4 years in a row, and then my career was over. So I don't know what it really is like to not make the playoffs other than 1 out of my 4 years. I tell you what it's like to make the playoffs. Freaking incredible. It's absolutely insanely incredible. The glory. I always go back to the glory. The big plays, making a big hit, making a big catch, making a big throw, standing there in the pocket like Trevor does. Take that hit, but still make a nice throw. You know? Whatever it is. It's that glory. And there's nothing better than winning. Listen, I will never be a Super Bowl champ. We were so close to going, especially in 96, man. We had a chance for sure to beat New England, and we all believe that we would have matched up well against Green Bay. You'll never get it.
And you would have got a game-winning sack against Brett Favre.
Listen, I was playing some good football then, and then whatever, I got hurt, but it doesn't matter. But that year was special. It's a special year. And we were all held accountable. I guess, Doug, he's got to hold them accountable. And I know it's a different era, right? You can't be like, bang, bang. Okay, fine. But the principles of accountability never change. It's how you deliver them. Like, is there fear to lose playing time? Is there fear to lose your job? Is there fear to getting cut? Or is it, whatever, I don't care. I'm getting paid, or I'll go somewhere else. Someone will pick me up. You know what I mean? I don't know. I was always like, no. And by the way, a majority of us were like that. We don't want to lose our jobs. We like this job. And we're kicking ass. And there's a standard that is expected. What's the standard today? You know, like what would you say as you look at the team? What's the identity? What's the standard? What is it? Other than hype. Other than, oh, wow, look how fast Calvin is in practice. He runs some fast routes. Great. Trevor had a great Devon Hamilton, man. What a camp. Against who? You ain't getting that from me next year. I tell you, I shouldn't say I'll go to practices, but gosh, it's going to happen next year. Look how great they look. You know what's going to happen? Look, the hype machine's on every team. It ain't just in Jacksonville. It's on every team. I gave BC crap for having a hype video going to Fenway Park for their 6-6 bowl game. Like, what? You like going 2 miles down the road, a send-off? The world we live in. I get it.
Give me till about April, and I'll be telling you that I see a deep playoff run next year.
No, you know it. Well, look, free agency matters.
Oh, 100%.
Who you keep, who you don't, who you go get, who you draft, all of that matters. This defensive coordinator search will be interesting, okay? Hey, I feel bad for Mike Caldwell. I think he's a bit of a scapegoat, if not a full scapegoat. They felt like they had to do something. I do think it came from up top. I think everyone's ticked off. I think emotions got the best of us, and you know what? You got to do something. I guess. I wouldn't have done it. I wouldn't have. I would have just made my players better, and I would change the accountability factor, at least from my point of view, right? But now I'm looking forward to see, what do we do? Okay, just get a nose tackle, number one, please. And Hamilton's not it. Injury, not injury, whatever. When he gets tired, he stands straight up, and they move him off the ball.
I think
he's a big guy. It's hard to stay low when you're 6'4" at nose. I get it. But you have to do it. So put him out on the end. I'll tell you this. I want to see a 4-3. Put him at a 3 technique. Up on a guard, then maybe, yeah. But double teams, not his game. Not his game at all, my opinion. 3-4 is tough if you don't have a nose. It's tough to stop the run. It's tough to do a lot of things. And look, even when you go 4-3 and you go nickel, it's kind of like playing 3-4. Defending the run in nickel, not big nickel with the safety coming down. The 6 against theirs is very tough to stop a run because somebody has got to shoot a gap. Somebody's got to get off a block. It's not a free. You don't have any free men just sitting there in a hole waiting to make a tackle like you do in a base defense. So Just because you go 4-3, that doesn't solve all of the problems. But I do know this. When you go 3-4, you better have a freaking nose tackle that don't move. That nobody can move. Anyway, what were we going to say?
I was going to say, on the other side of the ball, I agree with you about a nose. They need to go, if they're going to stick with a 3-4, especially, they need a nose. Like, they need a nose like they need oxygen down there. And then also, on the opposite side of the ball, if it were up to me, I don't think it's going to happen, but if it were up to me, I want 2 new guards and a new center. All 3 of those. Those 3 positions were a disaster all season. All season long.
I wonder if Scherf retires. I wonder if he's banged up. He could be so banged up that he just... But I don't know. Look, I even remember watching him in camp, and I'm like, man, he's really violent coming off the ball. That violence waned towards the end of the year. They all waned. Then there was no violence. Cam brought some. Cam brought it, but overall, there was no violence out of our offensive line.
Sure, if his age is catching up to him, I believe. Fortner has, coming out of college, strength was his problem. And it was a clear issue all year. And on the other guard, it eventually became Ezra Cleveland, which is fine. He was fine, whatever.
He's okay. He's fine.
But Doug said himself on the McAfee show when they traded for Ezra Cleveland that, this guy, he's versatile. He plays guard, but he's really built like a tackle. Okay, what does that mean? That means he's probably a little more slight. I need people moving bodies in the middle, man. No one moves bodies.
Well,
no one moves bodies.
For the record, this is my opinion. You could throw Fortner. You could throw Cleveland as a guard. You could throw Little. I think Scherf to a certain degree. They just try to get in the way.
Yes.
They don't try to rip your head off and take you to the ground. But I think that's kind of his system. I don't think they're road graders. Although go back to when he was Philly, they had a really good offensive line. But who does it start with? Great tackles and a center that's not just athletic. Fortner's very athletic. Big guy to be so athletic. But he's not an animal. Jason Kelsey's an animal. When he pulls around, he's ready to take your head off. I don't think we don't have that from the interior.
You as a defender are going to move backwards if you engage with Jason Kelsey. That does not happen with Luke Fortner, man. And it doesn't happen with the other 2 guards either. It obviously happened with Scherf at one point in his career, but his age is catching up to him.
And I think, look, what we don't know about the offensive line, just look, if you've ever had like an impingement in your shoulder, in your neck, in your elbow, it does. All that, it takes away your power sometimes if it's that bad. You know what I mean? So I think he might be banged up. I'm giving him a little bit of the benefit of the doubt, but I don't know. I feel like there were too many times where he was getting beat, too many times where all 3 of them were getting beat. And by the way, it wasn't always just getting knocked back. Some of it was lack of communication, some of it sliding the wrong way, not passing off guys to each other, and then on top of that, getting blown up, at the line of scrimmage. So
this has
been not a good year. Are they firing Rosher, by the way, who I don't want them to fire? I don't want them to fire anybody. But is he next?
Them getting rid of Washington leads me to believe they will not fire
I don't want them fired. I don't want any of them fired. I don't think it's Bernie's fault that ETN, only averaged 3.8 yards a carry. I don't think it's Bernie's fault that Tank didn't get going to the end. By the way, nice job, Tank Bigsby, for finishing strong. I got to give you some credit. You were good on the return game for the most part, right? And he had a couple runs that were pretty decent.
I just think far too often, you just said it, there were communication, but that's a Rauscher thing in my. Why is this? Why are we deep into the season and the offensive line's having communication problems?
Why are we deep in the season? We're having communication problems between the quarterback and the wide receivers,
100%,
and the tight end,
100%.
How? How is that even a possibility?
And
you know what it is? It's attitude. It's got to be. Or do they all have ADD and they're not on medication? You know what I'm saying? Like, I have ADD, but I have medication.
And you were kind of
clinical medication, but nonetheless.
You were talking about like kind of guys getting on each other's ass and stuff, maybe on the flight home and all that. We obviously don't see what what goes on behind closed doors in the locker room, flights home, what have you. But I'll tell you, man, back to the guy that was telling you about the sideline when he was there.
Yeah.
Even when you're watching on TV, when bad plays, no one's pissed off enough,
I know.
Man.
I know.
There's too much, oh, my bad, we'll get him next time type thing. And it's like, dude, it's the 4th quarter and you're down 8.
Remember when I told you, I don't know, probably a month or so ago what my linebacker coach used to say about brother-in-law? Don't brother-in-law each other. He would say that all the time. And all he meant was don't brush off bad play like, hey, it's okay. It's okay. You'll be all right. More like, let's go back into the film room and watch more film. Let's go into the weight room and work on our strength. Let's go out and work on our something. Let's go hit the sled. Let's go do something. Let's go hit the tackling dummy. Let's work on form tackling. You know what I mean? Like, don't brother-in-law. Don't be like, it's cool, man. All good. Get him next time. Now you're at home. And you know what? The reality is you are right where you deserve to be. At home watching the playoffs. And I hope you watch it. If I was done, well, you can't make them, but I'd be like, you guys got to watch the playoffs. I want it to sting. It's got to sting, man. Like I've said all year, talented enough to be contenders. Not talented enough to not be on your A game. Just not. Not many are. Few are. But they're not. San Fran's probably one. Baltimore's probably one. Buffalo's playing good football right now, but maybe just two, right? You got to be on your A game. You can't give the ball up. 30 giveaways if you're just joining. Our offense, 30. Our defense, 27. I don't know. How about third down all year? Granted, we were 8 of 14 against the Titans, so that was really good. But where's that been all year, Grammage, for our offense? They've been shitty all year on offense for third down. Terrible. Absolutely terrible. And I do believe some of that's play calling. I will say that. Hell yeah. Decision-making. Not being aware of the situation, not being aware of the clock, not being aware where you're at on the field. Those things got to happen in order for this team to get better. All right, let's go through man, I tell you one thing about the offseason. We'll talk about it here and there, mostly Jags, of course, on this show. But, I'm really I don't know. We'll save this for an offseason question, Grammage. But if you're the Bears, Ryan Poles, what are you doing?
That's a decision, man.
I think I'm keeping Fields.
I think I'm not.
Really?
I'm going with Caleb Williams.
I don't like Caleb Williams crying to his mommy in the stands.
I don't either, but I like him making 3 guys miss and whipping it 50 yards down the field.
That's college.
Yeah, Mahomes did that in college.
What's that?
Mahomes did it in college.
Mahomes wasn't the prospect he was coming out of college that he is today, or when he started. Remember, he was kind of like, threw like 10 picks his senior year, junior year, whatever it was. It wasn't like he was the number one prospect that year. He was kind of like, he's 3 or 4, if you remember. But then he's turned into, Caleb Williams turned into that? I don't know. I got nothing against the kid. I just don't like crying like that, in public. Go cry in a private location, man. I've cried after games. I have. Not in front of a lot of people, but I tear up. I get upset. I just don't think you jump into, the stands and, wail away at mama. That bothers me. I'm sorry. I'm old school, but that I would, if I'm interviewing him, that's one of my questions. And that he doesn't go shake hands. Like, what is that all about? What's your problem? Last game I think he played, he didn't shake hands. Like, what's your problem, young man? I don't know. I like Fields. I think he needs help, but we'll talk about that at a later day. How about this finishing up Week 18, Grammage? 11-5 for picks. Not too bad. Lost, of course. Jags. Dummies. Had Buffalo. I'm ticked off. Like, I am. I'm not going to, I shouldn't call them dummies, but you had it right there. You had it right there for the taking, and you freaking blew it. And I do hope it stings, and I hope that sting lasts all off-season long. So when you come back for off-season conditioning, it's 100%, at least close to it, in attendance, and you guys are humble because you acted like you were the second comings part of the year, especially in the beginning. Don't listen to the press clippings. Have some humble pie, and I hope every single playoff game, including the Super Bowl, stings you to the utter core because that's what it's going to take for you to turn things around. Coaches, play calls, whatever. It's the players that make this game. It's the players that have to execute the plays. If the execution was there, like I said a month or two ago, if the execution was there on 50% more, just half more percent of betterness, that's even a word, we wouldn't complain about any of the play calling. All right, it's time to go, Grammage. Thanks, Team Tommy Mac. Thanks to all you checking out. Really appreciate it. I'll try to answer your questions off air. Thanks for joining us here on Facebook. You'll see us on the 1010XL YouTube channel, and we will share it all over social media and other podcast platforms. Until next time, y'all be safe. Stay cool, man. And we'll see you right here on Catching Up with Tommy Mack. Peace.